I am 106 years old. I've buried a husband, buried 3 of my children. My eyes are failing. My bones creak like old floorboards, and I am happier right now than I ever was at 40, or 50, or 60. That doesn't make sense, does it? I spent 80 years chasing something, approval, success, the feeling I'd finally done enough, never caught it. It wasn't until I stopped running that I found what I'd been looking for. There are 7 things I wish somebody had told me before I wasted all those years. My name is Opal Mae Richardson. I am 106 years old, and I am happier now, sitting in this chair, half blind, with bones that creak like old floorboards, than I ever was at 40, or 50, or 60. That doesn't make sense, does it? I worked for 60 years, raised 5 children, buried a husband, buried 3 of my own babies, outlived everyone who ever told me I wasn't enough. And here's the strange part. Somewhere around 80, I noticed the less I cared what people thought, the better I felt. The less I chased, the more I had. Like happiness had been sitting in the corner of the room the whole time, waiting for me to stop running long enough to notice it. Took me a century to figure out that peace doesn't come from what you collect. It comes from what you put down. There are 7 things I wish somebody had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me before I turned 60. Maybe if I'd known, I wouldn't have wasted so many years looking for peace in places it was never going to be. It was 1971, Christmas season. I was working double shifts at the department store downtown, alterations, hemming, buttons, whatever they needed, coming home at 10 at night, up again at 5 to get the children ready for school. I wore that exhaustion like a badge, like it proved something. My husband Walter, he'd be sitting on the porch when I got home. Some nights he'd just watch me move through that house like my hair was on fire. One night he asked me to sit with him, just sit, look at the stars, 10 minutes. I told him I couldn't, had to iron the children's clothes for church, had to pack lunches, had to. He looked at me, I can still see his face, and he said, "Tired is not a trophy, baby. Tired is just tired." I didn't listen, kept ironing, kept running, kept telling myself I'd rest when everything was done. And you know what? Everything is never done. There's always another shirt to press. Walter died 23 years later, and I never once sat on that porch with him the way he asked. I thought rest was what lazy people did. I thought you earned it by working yourself to the bone, and if you were still standing, you hadn't worked hard enough yet. I was wrong. Rest isn't the reward for finishing your work. Rest is how you stay alive long enough to do the work that matters. I didn't listen to Walter about rest, didn't listen to him about a lot of things. But the next lesson, that one cost me even more. Lorraine was born in 1945, my first. I poured everything into that girl, every hope I'd buried, every dream I couldn't afford to chase. Lorraine was going to go to college. Lorraine was going to marry well. Lorraine was going to be the woman I never got to be, so I made her choices for her. Picked her major, nursing, something practical. Picked her church, Greater Mount Calvary, of course. Tried to pick her husband. And when Lorraine chose differently, when she married a man I didn't approve of, moved to Detroit, started living her own life, I treated it like betrayal. 8 years we didn't speak. 8 years of birthdays I missed. Grandchildren I didn't see take their first steps. My own daughter, and I held that door closed because she wouldn't be who I wanted her to be. When we finally reconciled, Lorraine looked at me and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Mama, I'm not your second chance. I'm my first chance." That sentence broke me open. Lorraine died at 61. Heart attack, just like her father. I had 12 good years with her instead of 20, because I spent 8 of them punishing her for not being my do-over. Children are lent to you. They come through you, not for you. And the tighter you hold, the more you lose. I tried to control Lorraine because I thought I knew best. Thought I knew what the church said, what God wanted, what was proper. But I had the church wrong, too. October 1987. Greater Mount Calvary Baptist Church, the building where I'd worshipped for 50 years, caught fire. Electrical. Burned right down to the foundation. I wept like I'd lost family. That building was where I married Walter, where I baptized my children, where I buried my mother. The pews where I sat every Sunday since I was 20 years old, gone. I told Reverend Holloway I didn't know if I could go on. Said it felt like God had taken something from us. He didn't let me sit in that grief long. By Thursday, 2 days after the fire, the congregation gathered in Sister Mackie's living room. 47 people, standing room only. We sang Leaning on the Everlasting Arms, with our shoulders pressed together in that tiny space. And I understood. The church didn't go anywhere. The building burned down on a Tuesday. By Thursday, we were holding service in Sister Mackie's living room. Wood and brick, that's all a building is. The church is wherever 2 or 3 are gathered. I'd been worshiping a container when I should have been loving what was inside it. I confused the container for the thing inside it. Did the same thing with my body for years. For decades, I treated my body like a machine that existed to serve everyone else. Ate standing up over the sink, skipped doctor visits because I didn't have time, ignored aches because there was too much to do. I thought my job was my asset, my savings, my house. My body was just the vehicle that carried me to all of it. Then I was 72 years old, and I had my first stroke. Minor, the doctors said. But I'll tell you what, there's nothing minor about waking up and not being able to feel your left hand. Suddenly that house didn't matter because I couldn't climb the stairs. The savings didn't matter because no amount of money could buy back what I'd lost. I sat in that hospital bed realizing every other asset I had depended on the one I'd neglected. Lose your health, and your job can't save you. Your money can't save you. Your children can't save you. The only investment that always pays is the one you make in staying alive. After that stroke, I had to slow down. And slowing down meant I finally had time for something Walter had been asking me to do for years. Walter loved fishing. Lord, that man loved fishing. Not for food. He threw most of them back. He'd sit by the lake for hours, catching nothing, happy as could be. I used to think it was the biggest waste of time I'd ever seen. I couldn't understand doing something with no purpose, no paycheck, no product. My sewing was always for money or for necessity. My cooking was always for the family. Everything I did had to justify itself. After Walter died, I was cleaning out the garage, found his fishing tackle in the corner covered in dust. I sat down with that tackle box and I wept. Not because he was gone, because I finally understood he wasn't wasting time. He was filling his soul with something that didn't demand anything from him, something that existed just because it brought him peace. And I'd never given myself that gift, not once in 73 years. That next month I started quilting, not for sale, not for the grandchildren, just for me, scraps of fabric that turned into something beautiful for no reason at all. You need something that belongs only to you, something nobody pays you for, something that proves you exist beyond your usefulness to other people. Walter gave me that lesson without ever knowing it. My mother gave me a harder one. My mother's name was Bessie Turner, born in 1898 in rural Mississippi, raised in a world that gave black women no room for softness. She criticized everything. My cooking, my parenting, my weight, the way I kept house. Nothing I did was ever enough for that woman. Nothing. When I was 12 years old, we moved to Chicago during the Great Migration. My mother stayed behind. I know there were reasons. But to a 12-year-old girl, it felt like abandonment. That feeling hardened into something I carried for decades. In 1961, after a fight about how I was raising Lorraine, my mother telling me I was doing it all wrong, I told her not to contact me again. 15 years I kept that wall up. Birthday cards returned unopened, Christmas calls ignored, my own mother, and I wouldn't let her in. Then in 1976, my brother called. Mama was dying, cancer. I almost didn't go. Almost let her leave this world without seeing her face one more time. But something told me to get on that train. I still call it the Lord. I sat beside her bed in Greenville for 3 days. We didn't talk about the fight. We talked about recipes, about her mother, about the garden she used to keep back when I was small. And in those last hours I saw Bessie clearly for the first time. She wasn't cruel. She was broken. A woman who had been shown no tenderness and didn't know how to give it. She did the best she could with what she had, which wasn't much. Forgiveness ain't about what they deserve. It's about what you need to put down. I forgave my mother not because she earned it. I forgave her because carrying that weight for 15 years had made my own heart hard, and I didn't want to die that way. I put that down at 56 years old. I wish I'd done it sooner. But the last lesson, that one took me even longer. When I was young, I was told my worth was in how I looked. Spent hours on my hair, my clothes, my figure. Watched other women do the same, competing for attention, for husbands, for worth measured in mirrors. Here's what I noticed by 80. Every woman I knew who had been considered a great beauty was either dead or depressed. Their currency collapsed. The thing they'd built their whole identity on, gone. But the women who invested in their minds, the ones who read, who argued, who stayed curious, they were alive in every way that mattered. Now I'm 106. Can't see well enough to check my reflection. Doesn't matter. I still finish the crossword puzzle in the Chicago Defender every Sunday. Still debate politics with my great-granddaughters, and let me tell you, those girls think they know everything. Still make the nurses laugh at my checkups. They chased pretty. I chased interesting. Guess which one is still here? Beauty was never the asset. It was the distraction. A sharp mind keeps you company when everything else fails. 7 lessons. Took me 106 years to understand them. But you don't have to wait that long. I'm sitting here now in my room. Got my jar of butterscotch candies on the nightstand. Been refilling that jar since 1962. Got quilts I made for no reason on every chair. Got pictures of people I outlived and people I'll leave behind. And I'm at peace. Every one of these lessons comes down to the same thing. Stop looking outside yourself for permission to be at peace. If you're watching this, you're probably still chasing something. Approval, success, the feeling that you've finally done enough. I'm here to tell you, you've already done enough. You are enough. The peace you're looking for isn't out there. It's in what you let go. You have time. You're not 106 yet. You don't have to wait until the end to feel the way I feel now. Reverend Holloway told me once, Opal, the good Lord didn't put you here to be exhausted. He put you here to be alive. I finally believe him. If any of this stayed with you, share it with someone who's still running. Maybe they're ready to rest.